In fact, my role ends here, but I'll be happy to be in this company. And congratulations to you.
Thank you so much.
Mustansir's first book is also available. It is called Brouhaha of Cox. I like just saying the name. Though at the time when it came out and he was planning it and he told me what the name was going to be, I said, Mustansir, are you sure you want to name it that? And he said, unanswerably, why not? Okay, Mustansir.
Thank you. Firstly, thank you, Mike. This is a great honor and privilege to have it released by you. And there are no better interlocutors I can think of than Jerry and Arundhathi. Thank you. And everyone who is here. I think I have been instructed by left and right that I should first read a couple of poems from my earlier book, kind of set stage for a discussion, and then read poems from the current book. So that's what I'm doing. Two poems that I will read from Brouhahas of Cox. Both, in a sense, are poems which are specifically located in a certain setting. The first poem that I will read is called South Africa's First Opening Wicketkeeper. And this is a poem which is located in a very small village called Kelushte, which is just near Chiplu. The interesting thing about that village is that for many, many years, a large number of its inhabitants have migrated to South Africa. And typically, like you have seen in later years of the GALF, you have all the, earning members of the family out of the village and very few people there. And this is all about one such person who is returning to the village. So the poem is South Africa's First Opening Wicketkeeper. Parker Muzard's son crosses himself at his crotch, catching the evil eye. 23 years down, the ache in his testicles stirs. Mamdood Deshmukh could tweak your little prick given half the chance. Magarmach got you, pushing the land away with his long oar, while you keened in agony all the way from Manzare Kashi to Kelushte. The dodging and fainting has stood him in good stead in the dust of the cave. He wears his crotch guard for show only. No ball will get past to cause such pain, not any more. His childhood and his father's was played out in war splashes. Mamdu, since Allah separated waters from the land, had carried him from this bank to the other. Although now one eye less, cataract. For Bilal, this is one eye too many. In these black waters he returns, the prodigal Burundi V. Bakshi, anticipating vermicelli, sandge and karanji. From the middens of his boyhood, his Goalkot dock gang seemed to have moved deep into the burrows of personal life. Zulfikar Chogle once swung his bat like the scimitar of Ali. Ibu Inamdar never kept a decent line or length. Bandya Karandikar shagged into his glove. Even now, on the morning of a test, ignoring the wink of Lewiston's second slip and the nudge of Gully Groot, he ritually checks their insides before he leads his team out. The dock is deserted on Friday afternoon. From the new RCC minaret of the Jami, Amin Mia proclaims the one. He used to be Pichkia Khatib, the village crier, whose early calls during Ramzan to the tune of Ghar Aja Pardesi still loop in Bilal's ears, reminding him that he is just another kafir in search of just another fatherland, like the many fathers with dependents in drag who found Kokand in Durban, Pietermaritzburg and Bloemfontein, leaving Kalushte disconsolate, accruing at 6-year intervals material wealth but terminal emptiness. To Mushiatsona, the burning returns in his groin and eyes. He acquiesces. Yes, I am. Bilal Musa Parkar. He meets the one good peeper with his own 2020. What luts, says Muhammad Deshmukh. His slow oars over the Vashishti, a fulfillment of daily chores, ferrying South Africa's first Konkani wicketkeeper home. And another poem is, in fact, located in Goa. This is a poem called Sunset at Bardem. Jesus, the fisherman, walks half a mile west in open water, works net. Is this audible? Yeah. I'll just start again. Sunset at Bardem. Jesus, the fisherman, walks half a mile west in open water, works nets at day's end, appraises a catch much reduced. Japanese trawlers now carpet fish the high seas outside Goa. He doubts even his father will arrange for the meager sardines and mandeli to be divided amongst the congregation. Southwards, the apprehension of an incoming grey line that might make him lose even this. 200 feet above the shallows, Christ ascends the high altar of St. Diego's. His plaster of Paris finger follows the storm beyond his flock, kicking a football outside the narthex. Father Opreo keeps goal as assiduously as he tends to his lady. He pushes the hair from his face, spies the moving finger, and rubs his eyes as it points to the sky. This vindication of his faith fleetingly overcomes his skills as a keeper. He misses the penalty and takes the ball full frontally on the crotch. Belief systems are compelled ephemerally into an entirely different focus. Obreo suffers the extreme barbs of piety as he rolls in the dust like a supplicant. Above the belfry, the squall slows. The sun brings absolution, lighting at the last instant palm fronds that line the beach all the way to Sinkeram, revealing a gleam of his heavenly kingdom. Christ postpones resurrection to keep the rain at bay, enough to convey the fishermen and footballers of Bardem to Vespers. A bodhisattva, the Messiah has a job to do and pits compassion over destiny every time.
Mustansir, the question that standing straightforwardly. The first book came out and generally received much appreciation and acclaim. Was there any feeling of doubt about the second book? Feelings of apprehension about putting it together? Stuff, anything you want to talk about that process?
I guess the one difference between the two books was that the first book had a broad theme, and that was the theme of geography and location. The second book does not have a theme as such; it is more a collection of poems, although it is thematically divided into some sections. So that was an apprehension that should a book have can a book just be a collection, or should a book have a consistent kind of narrative streak to it? That was one. The other one was that the second book has poems written over a fairly long period. In fact, Brouhahas comes right in the middle of that. There are poems prior to that, and there are poems after that. So whether it all kind of fits in a single collection. That was the concern.
But apart from concerns, my question is also about how you think the first book, what were the preoccupations, do you think, of the first book? And did they in some way intensify in the second? Was some actually discarded? It would be interesting if you shared some of the journey from the first to the second. Before that, I just want to congratulate you on a very rich, very varied, it's an unexpected book in some ways. There's a jauntiness, there's an upbeatness, which I particularly enjoyed. So I'm going to come back and ask you also to talk about the ability to combine humor with a lot of very scathing comment. We'll come to that. But I just wanted to ask you how you see the trajectory from your first to your second in terms of preoccupation.
That's interesting because one preoccupation was that a lot of the poems of the first book came through travel. And in a sense, they're all concerned with the shoreline. A lot of the sections here are along the west coast of India, Bombay, New Bombay, the Konkan, Goa, Kerala, that way. One of the important parts of Bruhahas is a cycle of poems written about St. Thomas, which is about his time in India. Now, in the writing of that, I had done a lot of reading. So, the recent interview, I simply called it a project. So that sort of thing I wanted to do again. So when I did the next book, the project was the Arab scientist Ibn al-Adha, about whom I did a lot of reading and then kind of made a cycle of poems. So in that sense, the preoccupation continued. But the preoccupation with location also continues. So there are poems which are urban, which can be specifically located. And then there are several poems which are written about objects or works of art, which also to me are located in where they are. So that is the kind of continuation of thoughts and ideas.
I'd like to read a couple of poems from the new book.
Okay. I'll read the first poem in the new book. It is called Our Lady of Gidaganj. Not that anyone bothered, even when you were a working woman, but who did you come home to when the jinnah succumbed to stupor? Where is your lover? What of your child? Only the triple veins below your navel, under your chin, remain as forensic presence. Who unfastened your jewelry? Who found solace at your breasts? A stone mummy now, lady, you are the stuff of museum wear. Every stroke releases a whiff of sandalwood. From the carved stem, the whisk snaps air, scattered on snare, drums into the Tirthankara's ear, keeping him free from flies and showers. She remembers the love of her life. Once they stood pole position, right and left, in a sacred pantomime of synchronized supplicants. Her analog has moved, pearl patina ground into homeopathic grain, leaving her centuries as compensation and a riverbed to soothe her spine with eddies, and lave her tresses with silt. Did you summon up the eons, lady, even as the soles of your feet refuse to flex, despite the iambic whiplash of soiled linen? You kept your shine even when waylaid for a dhobi's stone. Like unmarked phials in an apothecary, you now keep intimacies. I presume nothing. I can scatter syntagems like chaff. My amateur hands can ravage mints in minutes. You offer me nothing but your grace that holds me at bay. This is a poem about a city. It's called Traumstadt or Dream City, whose shadows remain unsilent while the girl runs away with stick and wheel. The stumpy hirsute observes, tamping down his Jekyll self. The constable scores for itinerant Valjeans, wants no Rambos on his beat. Shopkeepers keep the peace, the gods forsaken, what scales the thirst for grace? Thermals sweep through passages in fretwork, temperatures drop. The whistle dusk takes apnoid breaths, aspirates like a punctured lung. The siren is monotone, a strain from a Neanderthal bone flute. Arcades fold in the manner of accordions, divide into more arches. Bourgeois cross-brace, entwine like caduceae, buttress the skyline. Somnambulants readjust in Caligari coffins, smile for no reason at all. There must be some purpose to spires in a place of no religion. Dry retching out of ink, the crow-quill scratches parchment, the city recomposed.
So that's the point I think to agree with the question about architecture and poetry. Because I remember once traveling with an architect in somewhere in New England, and he pointed out a voussoir on a building. I just like the idea that there should be a voussoir on a building, because I thought voussoirs were like places inside the building where you might go to Sussoir.
That's a pissoir.
So, when I'm thinking about notions of there is architecture underlying poetry, there is the architecture of the poem as a shape on the page, and there is the architect's view of a city unfolding as accordions or the shapes of things, the very specific caduceae and bourgeois. What is the interplay for you between architecture and poetry?
I think it's playfulness more than a play, because I did realize at one time that because of our education as architects, which lasts for 5 years, by the way, it's the longest course that you can do. There are so many things which are drilled into us, which then emerge very naturally. And I'm sure there are better ways of describing bourgeois, but the fact that it is there, that is the one which insists on coming out when you write a poem. And that's also true for other architectural kind of terminology. And I thought one can use it just for what it is in a poem.
In fact, I think you're absolutely right. That becomes one of the dominant images that keeps coming in and out. It runs entirely through the book, that of architecture, the gables and skylines and mortar. It's returned time and again. But what also interested me is the fact that there is recurrent imagery of pottery. There are kilns, there are pots, there's kintsugi, there's the whole Japanese art of, and he talks in one particular poem, which is the one I'm going to ask you to read. Mustansir talks of actually gluing a broken heart together using the bird line of words. So there is a view, and to me that became almost a credo poem for poetry in your book. It became a way of looking at poetry as a kind of verbal adhesive, as kind of language as mortar almost, and that seemed to me to be an interesting idea. So in fact I'd ask you to read that poem if you will, after you comment on this.
Also the idea of imperfection coming together and continuing a life even though imperfect. And actually that poem is called Kintsukorai, which is this Japanese technique of putting together broken ceramic ware using a mixture of lacquer and gold dust. So it's like gum, and you kind of stick it all together. So when it's put together, all the veins where the shards were broken are of gold. You know, and suddenly you have an imperfect object, but it's a delight to have and to look at and to use. So its life continues, you don't throw it away. But its life is enriched by the fact that you can use gold to actually use as a glue rather than as a material which is valorized, you know, in most objects which are made out of gold.
Is there a reason for this particular fascination with pottery that seems to be dominant in this world?
I don't know about that. I think, yeah, these are some of the unconscious themes which emerge when one writes poems, but I don't think there must be some Freudian thing sometimes.
Now that I'm beginning to look for it. But I'm going to ask you to read two poems actually, Mustansir. The other one is a poem that I thought could actually have been the title poem of your book, which is one called The Hunger of Houses. The Hunger of Houses, which became, I just loved the way in which, again, architecture becomes a way to talk about human yearning, human aspiration, human greed, human dream.
That's interesting. That is probably the first poem I ever got published.
Is it?
So it's as far back as 1992. Obviously, I didn't think of it at that time, but now that I look at it, it's like an adult nursery rhyme. You know, using a lot of imagery that comes in architecture, domesticity, built form, and so on. So, shall I read?
How come you didn't use this in your first book?
Because I think the first book had a certain theme which kind of led through, and this is more of a collection, so I can be a little more eclectic about the choice of poems. This poem is called There's a Hunger in Houses. There's a hunger in houses that can't solace rest. Roof lines soar skywards, gables get stretched. Shingles accept a foot of pilaster, buttresses preclude slippage, disaster. Arches fake glazing, rooftops crack dormers, see-through spectacles, cables wear armor, updated wallpapers crumble too soon. Children tear crescents of a paper moon. Wives remark darkly on soot formation, cut back on nag sounds, ward off starvation. Sinks chug sewage, post-meal slop, casements chew fingers, window panes drop, fluff beds shake down for calculated rest, doors shut on themselves, lids of old treasure chests. The other poem, Kintsukurai, was also kind of inspired by a sher or a verse from GALF. And that sher was, और बाजार से ले आए अगर टूट गया, सागरे जम से मेरा जाम इस फल अच्छा है. Should it perchance shatter, you could buy one from the bazaar another day. Better than Jamshed's bejeweled goblet, is it not, this my ignoble cup of clay? Kintsukurai. I have never believed poetry heals, but words can be bird-lime that keep the bricks of our fragilities in place. I wonder, Khalid, could you not have reassembled the shattered shards of your heart rather than run to replace it from the bazaar? Could you not have chosen instead to glue the pieces with your felicity? Were you afraid of amending rather than mending your beating chalice? Did you not trust the lacquer of your verse to hold it all together like it does those who hold your divan as a bulwark to their lives. Your words are brickbats to the enraged and marble to those whose ardor needs cooling. My name is mud. Gold runs in my veins, grouting an imperfect dam that holds. Yes, please.
I was talking about the humor earlier, and it's a particular kind of humor. Anglophone poets are often, the common allegation is that we aren't funny enough. And when we are, it's a kind of sneer. What's interesting about this is, I think there are several poets who would dispute that, and I think their work is proof of it, of the fact that Indian poets have a tremendous sense of humor, even when they're articulate. But what's interesting to me about Mustansir's humor is it's a particular brand. There's a quirkiness, there's a jauntiness, and for me, there's an excitement as well. There's an excitement about registers, about using different tenors, different registers, whether it's the demotic, whether it is the genteel, enjoying all of that. So the request that I would make is Song of Songs.
This is Song of Songs, and I think you will all recognize the language which is used in this, because it all comes from one Churchill Alemaum, who once gave a very strong defense of one of the members of his football team accused of inappropriately touching an air hostess. And of course that language was so fabulous that it kind of became viral all over the internet, and all of us started using it in our daily lives. Song of Songs. I can tell you where it comes from, but maybe later. Whatever is gone of yours that you are crying then? Whatever you bringing here that you now lost it? Whatever you make baby that now no more? Whatever you talking purposely, you uploading from here only, no? Whatever you downloading also same. Whatever belonging to you today, only belonging to some other whatever yesterday, and day after belonging to some other whatever. Changing is conspiracy of nature, no? Then why making big tamasha? For what it is worth, Song of Songs is essentially the Gita Sar. Ibn al-Haytham invents the camera. Before his sight is occluded completely, the old man makes peace with available light. He creates darkness for himself, obscuring his one window with bound volumes of his own scratchings and dissertations, leaving but a perforation the size of a pea, waiting for the right declination of the sun to transform the unadorned far wall of his cell into a retina, where, like dreams, his world turns upside down and Nastalik moves from left to right, as if Iblis himself held the stylus. Camels pad past, softly chewing, trailing cud along his ceiling. The mosque's finial impales his floor. Pigeons fly backwards to the ribbed dome to coo and bill when the kites are elsewhere, circling the marketplace for meat scraps. Their offbeat gurgling increases his urgency to complete his treatise on the influence of melodies on the souls of animals. In abbreviated downbeat, his jailer smites a club on his door, alerting him of the 5 important times, moments after he has worked it out for himself. Al-Azhar's minaret rises singularly, but meets the sky with a forked tongue. For 19 years, He keeps time using its twin tracks as his chronograph, marking ratios of hourly arcs along the heights of Rivaks, bounding the northwest cloisters of the Grand Seine. Prayers can wait, be deferred, even dispensed with. To come cannot be prognosticated. Were he a praying man, he might have perhaps genuflected to a lady's kindness. In her ascendancy as the new bearer of signet and wax, Sitt al-Mulk saves him a second time. Reviewing vows to her brother, conversant with this ham-bone madman, this doctor under false pretenses, she decrees he remain a jailbird with a life membership. The Daroga Zindan is instructed to keep him interned, not incapacitated. Were he a praying man, he would perhaps have said a Fatiha for the eagle-eyed monocrat who saw through the chaff he once tried blowing in his face. But his work keeps him preoccupied. Until one Shawwal evening, he is informed that the Imam, having left Al-Fustat to inspect the new observatory, never returned. That night, the moon falls long and slowly from the cross vault like a tumescent droplet, tracing an explorer's path along the warp and weft of the one carpet he is allowed before it melts into a puddle by his foot. The deaths of pharaohs can be such an inconvenience. New owners of establishments love ingratiating themselves by emptying jails. Abu Ali al-Hasan ibn al-Haytham wants no part of this. Happy to be chained facing the back of the cave, this cataracted Aflatun has no desire to slough off his shackles and come out into the light.
Mustansir, your first collection of poems are bound by the theme. The second one also is divided into thematically divided poems. Do you have some poems written in between in your drawers, which because they don't fit in any particular theme,
Are not in the book.
are they left out?
Yeah, there are a few. There are a few.
Shall I, before we I would like to go back to your translated poems. You see, you are a poet in your own right. You are also translated from Urdu into English. I recollect what K.P. Darawala once said. He had strong objection to poems being translated into from regional languages into English or the other way. Because he said they are all dead translations. They cannot convey it properly. And we had an argument, my personal experience I'm sharing with you. Because I said, dead translation doesn't matter. Dead translation is better than no translation. He said, no. If there is dead translation, there should be no translation. So anyway, I don't know what you feel, but I'm very happy that you have translated none other than Iqbal in English. What is your experience? How is it taken? And how satisfied you are with the translation? Because we know what Iqbal is, that's why I'm saying.
And there is, it's a very fair question. One way to look at it is if there is a text which has not been translated, then shall we at least accept a bad translation. On the other hand, there are texts which have already been translated. So then it is simply a matter of having a better translation. When I translated Iqbal, it also came from this little feeling of dissatisfaction. Because in, I think, 1981, Khushwant Singh had already translated Shikwa-e-Jawab-e-Shikwa, which is pretty much a best-selling book because it's still published and it still comes out. So was there space for another translation? I think it was, because I mean it came personally from my dissatisfaction with it. And then once I did it and kind of showed it around, a lot of people read it and felt that it is worth, sending to a publisher. The publisher accepted it. So I think it's like science, that what we know today is a certain theory, but it's a theory that is always tentative, and somebody can come with something better.
That's a good question actually. And I don't know how you would react, Jerry. My feeling is always often, at certain points I feel, I'd rather the translation hadn't been undertaken at all, because it's so bad that it almost is a disservice to the original. They put me off entirely. But this is another way of looking at it as well, which is that one may be inclined to get involved and do something with it and take it to another level. But my question would also be, was considered how translation, and you've not just translated Iqbal, you've also translated some of Arundhathi, you've translated a contemporary word like Pinto. Do you feel there has been a certain impact that your translation has had on your poetry? And if so, how?
I think so. I think translating Hemant Divte, for example, who is a very contemporary poet, who writes his Marathi poems in a completely multilingual kind of manner. You know, his poems have English, Marathi, Hindi, Gujarati all mixed up in one. And that does come across in some of my own poetry, where I'm more than happy to use words which are not from English without really even needing to explain them. So yes, I think that does happen. There's this very famous poem by Arundhathi, which is a Marathi poem, which is called Happy New Year, I think. And when you read it in Marathi, the entire poem is in Bombaya Hindi. Okay, but it is in Arundhathi Kavita, so it is Marathi. Okay, now I have translated that, but then how do you translate it? You know, what is the language? Do you how do you work with it? So it's difficult, but then you try to make it sound like the English which we speak in India on the roads, something like that. So yeah, these are the problems which we encounter. Of course, one of the common things, and I'm sure everybody will agree, especially when you're translating poetry, is that when you read it in English, it should read like poetry. I think one of the problems is that when translation happens, sometimes it is a little too literal, or sometimes the kind of poetic nature of, and remember that when we are reading it in poetry, it should sound good in English, let alone its own original language. In fact, if you like, there is one poem here which is actually a translation, but a reworking with that. This is a poem called At a Wake, Ek Chehellum Par. It is a nazm by Raja Mehdi Ali Khan, and I'll just read a little part of it, not everything. And this is typically a kind of, a house which is in mourning, and because a very young, newly married kind of man has died, and of course the wife is completely distraught. But this poem is seen from the point of view of the mourners who come, with pretty much their own agenda. Get up, Jamila, dry your tears, roll out the carpets, this is no time to weep. Shake a leg, this house needs cleaning. End your futile petitions to the Almighty. Run, Mia, run, charge hookahs for imminent company. Remember, only Lipton tea is best. Mourners descend, vent their grief, weep copiously in the hall, knock back cups of chai. This, they say, hardly had the bride shed her wedding dress, the groom himself shuffled off his mortal coil. How handsome was he, well-mannered and true, one in a million, the acme of youth. Now sorrow, wherever we turn, only sorrow, our bewailing is not enough. And of course, after that, it is all about the mourners trying to get the best of the meal which is served, in the wake, and complaining about the quality of food and so on. This is a kind of thing that I like to do, finding interesting nazm.
Thank you very much, Mustansir. Thank you, Bhai.
Thank you also.